Very much. You know, growing outrage is happening right now over a controversial decision, apparently by the administration. Actually, it's not by the administration. That's an important point. It's actually by the Department of Homeland Security to start releasing detained illegal immigrants. The move said to be in anticipation of looming federal budget cuts. More than 300 illegals in Arizona have already been let go, and Governor Jan Brewer there is not happy.
This is just unexplainable, unbelievable, and it's appalling. The bottom line is what about the respect for the law-abiding citizens? And who is running this country? You know, it's blame this person, blame that person, duck, cover. You know, the American people, Neil, are fed up.
Well, meanwhile, the chair of the House Homeland Security Committee is asking why this is happening and wants answers on it. Texas Republican McCaul is the author of a letter that he wrote to ICE and chair of the House Homeland Security Committee. Congressman, nice to have you in person on.
Thanks for having me, Jenna.
I said appreciate this. We've heard different numbers. We've heard hundreds have been released. We've heard thousands have been released. What are we talking about here? How many?
You know, we really don't know. We know hundreds have been released. It's a very dangerous, reckless policy. I sent a letter to Director Morton demanding answers in terms of how many people have been released, what is the background, what is this policy that you're doing that you didn't notify Congress about, and, you know, what is the criminal background? So we're hearing that some of these people released have violent criminal backgrounds.
We're hearing from the White House. Jay Carney spoke about this yesterday, saying that the White House has no input on this plan. This is up to the department to make that decision. What do you think about that?
It's very interesting how Napolitano announces this at the White House, tries to tie it to sequestration, a scare tactic that they've been doing all week long.
You don't think it's tied to sequestration?
I think that she's tried to. I think this whole thing backfired on the White House, and then you saw them running for cover, and they throw the secretary under the bus and say, oh, we had nothing to do with this. This is all ICE and the Secretary of DHS.
So why would they do that, though? What would be their motivation to releasing people if it's not due to budget cuts from sequestration?
Well, I think, you know, for the past year, they have had this plan to start releasing these detainees in their view to save money, but I think it's a weak immigration policy is what it is, and they're using sequestration as sort of a guise, if you will, an excuse to do this, to effectuate that policy. We kind of caught them red-handed on it. I sent my letter to Director Morton, and then you saw them all kind of running for cover, and then the White House not taking responsibility.
So you don't have a response to the letter so far. But do you have any evidence that this is their plan? You say this is your gut feeling about this, but any evidence that you can point to?
We know that they had a directive that they were looking at doing this as far as a year ago. So it's sort of ironic that Napolitano tries to tie this to sequestration. Again, you know, the sky's falling. Oh, now we're going to have to release illegal aliens. And again, I think that strategy totally backfired on them. We called them out on it. And it's a dangerous and reckless policy to release potentially violent criminal offenders into the general population.
So we need more information on this, obviously, how many, who exactly is being released. We had Karl Rove join us at the top of the hour, and he said something that Republicans should consider doing is giving the power to the president in sequestration to have some ownership to the cuts and how they're made. Right now, as we just talked about, the White House says, well, we don't have any ownership of these cuts because it comes down to the departments. What do you think about that? Should that be something that you all consider so that the president has a role in what cuts are being made and how?
Look, we want smarter cuts, but let's be honest. This was the president's idea. He came out with this idea. And you can't balance a budget if all you're going to talk about are discretionary spending. That's 1/4 of the budget. You need to talk about the 3/4 of the budget, which is entitlement reform. And without that adult conversation in the room, we're never going to get this thing done. And yet the president won't even come to the Congress and talk to us. He's running around on a road show, politicking rather than governing.
Let me ask you this, though. A lot of our viewers are hearing about their meat not being inspected, long lines at the airport, teachers being laid off, illegal immigrants being let out. At the same time, what we're hearing is that lawmakers are going home tonight, tomorrow, and we don't know what to think. What's really going on here? Is this just an opportunity for politicians to be political sequester, or do you think that the sequestration cuts are really going to have this effect that we're all hearing about?
I don't think that this thing's probably going to go forward. I know leadership's meeting with the White House tomorrow. I'm not optimistic about that, but the sky's not going to fall. The cuts will probably take place. We're going to be okay. It's a lot of hype by the administration, scare tactics. to blame House Republicans for this.
And you don't think that the House Republicans should take any action from this point on to try to prevent this or make some sort of compromise?
Well, you know, we've passed 2 bills to replace sequestration. The Senate has done nothing. The president didn't respond to it. The Boehner tried to negotiate something with the president of the United States, but again, he won't talk about entitlement reform. You can't get this done unless you have cuts in discretionary, but also mandatory spending cuts. And that's where I think, quite honestly, Boehner will tell you he got rolled by the president in the White House. He's not going to do it again.
Will you let us know when you get a response to your letter about the specifics?
I sure will, and I plan to sit down and meet with Director Morton personally. And I think the American people deserve answers to what I think is a return to the catch and release policy that we ended many years ago.
Congressman, pleasure to have you on set with us.
Thanks, Jen.
Thank you for the time today.